Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 24 of The Agency Way, a weekly Blab series focused on helping marketers learn from subject matter experts within a marketing agency and beyond. Today, I'm super excited. We have David Kutcher, who is co-founder, strategist, managing partner, and probably wears several other hats for Confluent Forms, a company that's been around for 14 years, really on the cutting edge of things like sexy metrics. And so excited to have him. Hey, David, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. And then, of course, for those of you who don't already recognize my co-host, Erica Stutzman, I'm really happy to have her on board as well, as usual, because Erica does an awesome job at listening for the key insights that will actually be published on the blog that summarizes this blab. So, Erica, thank you also for joining.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited about this because David promised we were going to talk about sexy, nerdy stuff.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. Yeah, I'm glad you mentioned that because as our resident expert, Alex Horner, says in our research department, spreadsheets are sexy. And I think what David has to offer even goes way beyond the sexiness of spreadsheets. So, yeah, very cool.
If data gets you hot, here we are.
Yeah.
I mean, different strokes for different folks, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So jumping right into this, I think, and David, I'm going to let you kind of freeform this a bit, but, when I look at what you're offering and even just in other conversations that I've seen on Blab, it gets straight into UTMs. And with the idea of how do you use URLs that will track the success of your activity online, whether it's a message that resonates well, whether it's traffic that's bringing additional business, sales, engagement, whatever you want to call it. But you have created essentially a tool set and a methodology by which to go about smartly tracking metrics online. And it all begins, I think, with the UTM from a technical perspective. So maybe you can just start by talking a little bit about UTMs and really just in general more about what you're doing and why.
Sure. So let's take the instance of, we're in this Blab. We're going to be here for maybe 30 minutes or so, maybe longer, right? And I'm going to be dropping some links and other people are going to be dropping links. So we're all going to be conversing. And I want to know at the end of the day, what the value of my time spent in this Blab and elsewhere was. How many people that saw this Blab clicked on the link, came to my website, and then once they came to my website, signed up for a newsletter or installed our Chrome extension or left me a note saying they want, to inquire about new business opportunities. Well, I want to be able to track that information. I want to know the ROI of the time that I spent in this Blab, or in a LinkedIn community, or in a Facebook group, or wherever. But if you just drop your link in there, all you would see is that Blab sent the traffic. I wouldn't know that Sexy Marketing Metrics with Jason Cormier was the one that drove the traffic. All I would know is that the traffic came from Blab, or the traffic came from Facebook. But using UTM codes, I can actually directly put a visit to a specific place where I did that, where I dropped that link and track it back. And I can see the long time, how much value came out of the 30 minutes I spent here, or the activity that I posted to a LinkedIn group. And that all comes through the UTM encoded URLs. So for example, I'm going to drop in a link, and this is a Google shortened link, into the chat. So from here, if there's people that click through, I set up a dashboard that I can see, and I'll be able to see in real time the people that came from that link that I just dropped in this Blab to our website and what they're doing and whether they're converting. But at the same time, using that same kind of UTM encoded links, I might drop a link into 3 different LinkedIn communities, but I want to know which community it was that was actually the one driving the traffic and driving the sales and conversion points. And sometimes what's interesting, what I found to be really interesting, is sometimes it doesn't actually align with the social media metrics that we're used to, the social proof metrics. One of my big insights recently was, I put a link to this article in particular into 5 different LinkedIn communities. And one of them had tons of activity. I got tons of likes, I got tons of comments and shares and everything else in there. But nobody actually clicked through the link. and nobody in that community signed up. But in one of the other LinkedIn communities that I posted that same link to, there was no activity. I would have thought that it was a dead community because there was no activity, no social proof metrics. But we got a ton of visitors from that link and a ton of signups and registrations and things. And it makes you realize how sometimes very out of sync social media social proof metrics are with actual business goal metrics that you're tracking. And it all comes from UTMs giving you that greater insight into where the traffic is coming from and attributing it back to not just the source, but a specific place that you dropped it, if you're doing it correctly with your campaign information and everything else in there.
Mm-hmm. That's fascinating. I mean, I really like what you say about the, the social proof metrics, and we might call those engagement metrics as well.
Mm-hmm.
And so, to your point, when I think about what story does that tell, that's the really important piece of this discussion, because as marketers, we know that, we might be, let's just say, accountable for certain analytics, certain number of shares, engagement analytics, whatever metrics that we're trying to meet. But at the end of the day, we need to be able to tell the story behind those numbers and ultimately what it means with respect to how we do something differently to improve our work.
Right.
And so for you to tell that story, what that says to me is, gosh, if we're really paying attention to a particular, social media or social network, and we don't see that there's a lot of engagement around a link that we put into that social network, we could incorrectly conclude that, this sucks, where this post is getting no engagement, when the reality is people could be clicking on that link, and then beyond the click even, they're doing something else that is achieving the goal that we set out for them to do.
Well, or the inverse is they could be having lots of engagement with it,
Mm-hmm.
but none of the goal completions at the end of the day that you need to accomplish with it. There could be a lot of churn, but not a lot of, actually swallowing the hook.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they could be talking about it, they could be sharing it. There could be tons of activity, but nobody signs up and downloads your white paper.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, and what it also allows you to do is see that, maybe we had a great message that got a lot of activity, but maybe it wasn't the right kind of activity. Mm-hmm. Maybe it wasn't quite the right message because we were our messaging was out of sync with the goal completion. So we were getting a lot of that engagement traffic, but not a lot of the completion traffic because there's some kind of disconnect.
Right.
So from a social media perspective, it allows you to then go back and say, maybe I really need to revise my messaging, that maybe we need to tone it down so we're not so focused on the clickbait aspect of it, which was getting lots of activity, but maybe we need to get to those value clicks a little bit better to be able to get to the ones that are really going to be buying and downloading this white paper, for example. And it allows us to really revise and revisit our messaging to make sure it is on point to accomplish what we wanted to accomplish beyond the engagement metrics.
Mm-hmm. So there's a couple things that I see that you're doing that I think is really valuable to a wide range of marketers, both on the agency side as well as on the brand side too. And that is, and this relates, by the way, to just making things easier, process. So, there's one practice that says use a link shortener, like Bitly. We've used Post, we've used Bitly, we've used lots of them. But then there's this other idea of not just using a link shortener, but making sure that you've got UTM data attached to that. And I want to talk a little bit about what those attributes of UTMs are, and how that ties in with Google Analytics. It seems to me what you've been successful at, and I know what would be super helpful to my people within this agency, is you've made it so that there's a very easy process for shortening a link, creating a UTM, and having that integrate with your Google Analytics like through a freaking Chrome extension, right? It's like magic. Come on. Can you talk a little bit about this and why it's valuable?
So this all came about because we have clients that we work with, and, to get my clients who are not necessarily the most, they don't want to be doing extra things that they don't need to do, and it's a pain for them. So, I was like, how can I get them to use UTMs? Because I forget. I'm in this industry and I forget to UTM encode my URLs. It was just how this whole thing came about, was my clients made UTM codes. I want to do it. So I said, okay, well, the first thing is nobody remembers to go to, the Google UTM builder URL right off the bat. We're just not going to remember. Like, it's so out of your normal process flow that you're not going to say, oh, I'm on a link. I have to copy the link, go here, do my whole thing, take that link, go to my URL shortener, Bitly or whatever, Google's URL shortener, shorten the link, and then copy that link to go to social media to then start sharing it. Talk about a disjointed process. Nobody's going to do that unless you're like a diehard, right? And then even when you do that, you've forgotten how you've structured your UTMs in the past. So then you're going to go look at your analytics, and they're just going to be, a cluster F word of just bad data because you haven't been consistent. Like maybe in one case you capitalized Facebook, and in a different one you lowercased it. And Google Plus. One time you did Google with the plus sign, and another time it was spelled out Google Plus. And social media might be social in one case or social media in a different case. So if you're trying to pull up your reports and your analytics, they're just going to be a disaster. So what we did was a combination of things. And I was, my partner and I, he's the builder, I'm the strategist. We thought about it, we're like, okay, well, first there has to be a button up in the address bar of Chrome. So that's where the Chrome extension came from. Originally, we were going to build it completely as a Chrome extension, but now we've moved it to a service, because that way we don't have to continually revise the Chrome extension, which is becoming a pain in the butt. So he grabs a URL, it posts it to our service that walks you through a quick step of how to build that URL string. And then once you stop typing and you have your required fields in, what it does is it automatically goes to Google's URL shortener and shortens your link for you. Ta-da! Yeah. So it's all trying to like make it so that you have no excuse not to use it. Mm-hmm. Right. And that's why we also have like the share your links to social right there, because again, we want to make it so that you don't have to copy and paste and do other things unless you really need to.
Right.
So we're trying to optimize that workflow as much as possible, because we want to make everyone's lives easier. Because the moment that you get in the habit of using this, I was recently with Denise Wakeman. She's actually in a Blab right now at the same time. I showed it to her and she's like, wow, I can use this for everything. And then like once you start using it for everything, you start seeing the data. And once you start seeing the data, then you're just hooked like no other. You can't not do it because you want to see it. Like you're addicted to seeing the results. And that's what it's all about, is being addicted to seeing, the rewards of your behavior.
A different internet connection. Oh, you guys are back.
You're back too. You froze for a second there. But yeah, it's really about making it so that not only do you have no excuse to be using this, because we've optimized the flow so badly, or so well that you have to do it. But then when you start seeing the data in the Google Analytics dashboard that we've attached with it, you want to be seeing it because you can see immediate results on what you're doing. You can see, oh, I just shared this link and there's 40 people that click through the link, and I can see exactly where they came from, and I can track which campaign and which source and what they're doing and the conversion rates of each place. And if you're an e-commerce site, you can see the dollar amount that was attributed to your share in this Blab or this Twitter post. And then once you see that data, it doesn't matter if you're a marketer or just a small business owner, like you have to do it because you see the reasoning behind it now. It's not some esoteric thing that you have to think about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Gosh, it makes a lot of sense. Well, I want to back up just a little bit because I feel like even though UTM is, something that's like maybe everyday language for a lot of us, it isn't for other people. There are essentially 5 parts to a URL that has an associated UTM on it. And 3 of those parts are, correct me if I'm wrong, or two of the 5 are kind of optional.
Yes,
that's right.
Actually, if you can make me a co-host, I think I can share my screen real quick also.
Okay, let me see. Let's do that. Okay, you're gonna laugh at me. I've never made anybody a co-host before.
I never have either.
Maybe it's because I'm a control freak. So I just need to know how.
I don't know.
If I click on you, maybe there's an option. Let's see. Oh, there's a little plus sign next to an H. Make this person a co-host. That's what it is.
There you go. All right.
Every day.
Oh, wow.
All right. So now I can share my screen.
Excellent.
All right. So, ta-da!
Boom.
I love technology when it works.
Yeah.
All right. So right now I am sharing the screen of our UTM builder, and I'm doing it for the article talks about UTMs. So basically, there's 3 main parts to a UTM encoded link, which is source, medium, and campaign. And what our system does is it also it is recording the ones that you've done recently, so you can see the recent values that you've put in. Some generic ones we've put in there as well. Some common ones. We've put some values into to get people started. But for this one right now, let's say I'm going to be sharing this link into a Blab. The source is where you're sharing it into, because you have to think about UTMs from the returning side. So if you're looking at the data, where was the source, the data where it came from? And in this case, it's going to be Blab. So I'm going to be sharing this into Blab, hence the source is Blab. Medium, this is a social media one. So I consider Blab social media, so I'm putting social there. So you can either choose from the values here, or you can type in your own. Now campaign, I'm in Blab. I've been putting the campaign for this one as the channel or the show that I'm currently in. So right now we're in social media, sexy marketing metrics. My apologies. So I'm putting that as a campaign, so that way when I look at my analytics, I'll be able to see that it came from this source into here. The 2 optional ones are content and term. So, let's say I'm doing a Twitter post. I can actually put the contents of the Twitter message into here. So let's say I want to do some A/B testing, for example. I could do some there by putting the content of there, and that way I'll be able to see the A/B testing of different Twitter messages that are all going to the same link. Term is something that, let's say within Twitter, you're doing different hashtag campaigns. You can drop the hashtags into the terms, so that way you can sort the data by hashtags that you've done the same post for. So it might be the same content in the same campaign with different hashtags, and you'll be able to sort them by hashtags, as an example. So you can play around with them, or you can just use them however you want and leave notes for yourself.
Excellent. So there's the 5 pieces to UTM. And then in terms of how you're tracking these in analytics, what you've said is, hey, we've made it so there's a dashboard now. So you can get a feel for how these things are actually tracked, and how the data can be sorted so that you can get the insights and tell the story.
So if you guys, or if anyone that's watching wants to click through the link that I just posted in the chat, we can show you real time what it looks like. Toggle over to this tab, which is the dashboard that we also provide people to get them started. So this is one of my websites that's going to, and you'll start seeing the data of people right now coming in through sexy marketing metrics. And again, in this one, you'll be able to see like source, Blab, medium, social, campaign, sexy marketing metrics, and how many came in through there. And if I have a whole lot of campaigns, you'll start to see the different campaigns that are coming into here, goal completions, as well as sessions that they generated. And you can start breaking down the data. And yeah, this is basically just to get people started, and it's like I said, once people start seeing live metrics regarding what they're doing, it gets kind of fun. It gamifies the whole process. So it's not just like, oh, now I'm doing all these campaigns, but I don't actually see what they're actually doing because I don't know where to find the data in analytics. hence this handy dandy UTM campaign tracking dashboard that you just install on your analytics, and voila, you can start seeing them in real time.
Yeah, very cool. When you think about, so there are going to be people that see this, and I'm sure they're going to take a look at it as well. But I know the initial questions are probably going to be like, okay, so why shouldn't I use Bitly or Post or any other just URL shortener? And then, you know what I mean? Are there disadvantages that are inherent? Because like you've chosen to use in this, you're using the Google URL shortener.
Right. And that's why we also made it so you can copy the whole trackable URL. So this is the full URL with the UTM stuff in it. So if you still want to use Bitly or those third-party systems, you can just grab the whole long URL and then go over to Bitly and shorten it over there if you want. We might add some more icons here, like to Post Planner or to Bitly or to any of the other services, as a way of just bringing the whole long URL over to their service if you still want to use them, as opposed to the Google URL shortener. It's entirely up to whomever is using it. You know, we have provided that functionality if they want to do it. Yeah, I mean, I look at it as there's also some fun things that you can do because it's the Google URL shortener, such as, you know, you can pull up the metrics from Google specifically, and we're going to start pulling back the QR codes automatically, for example, so that if you're doing a print campaign and you still want to use this, you'll be able to generate the QR codes and pull them back into our service automatically. Whole bunch of other fun things. So
cool.
You know, we use the Google one. We might actually build our own, but the Google one gives us up to, I think, 1 million per day as an API threshold. So we're like,
right.
Okay.
And as far as, so the Chrome extension is no longer, is that right?
No, the Chrome extension is still here.
Okay.
It's actually just, we made it a lot simpler than it originally was going to be.
Okay.
Originally, we were going to do all of this in the Chrome extension, but then we decided because there was so much we were adding into it that we didn't want to do it in there anymore. And plus, if we did it that way, then we're also cutting off from Firefox and Internet Explorer.
Yep.
So this way, we're going to build extensions for those other two services as well. And all it's doing is grabbing the URL that you're currently on and posting it over to our service.
Okay.
You know, it's very simple from what we originally anticipated it was going to be. But that way, we're not really tied to one browser and only one browser. And it allows us to develop a whole lot faster.
Sure. Well, that's awesome. And if I want to use this, if I want to refer people to it, you know, cost, what do I need to tell them?
So right now, and our plan is always going to be to keep the base level of basically what you see here to be completely free. Okay. There's going to be a professional level that is going to have extended functionality and reporting built into it. That's also going to allow for teams to collaborate and keep track of all their UTMs that they're generating and all their campaign data and everything. But that's going to be the paid service, and it's going to be extremely affordable. But the free version, there will always be a free light version.
Very cool. That's awesome, Matt.
Yep. Yeah, we're excited about it. I mean, we haven't really pushed our marketing of it. We're kind of just letting it happen. And people, I mean, it's interesting. We can see the people that are really using it are really using it. You know, like I said, once you get into the habit, like once you see the results, you really get addicted to seeing more of those results.
Yeah.
That is addictive. You know, it's, yeah.
And it's sexy.
It's sexy. It's sexy and addictive. Yes.
That's right.
You want to do it all the time.
Yeah.
I got to stop with the innuendos.
Awesome. Well, I feel like this has been, hopefully for our audience, for people watching this, a good primer on UTMs, and then hopefully a bit of a bridge in terms of how UTMs are used with link shorteners and even Google Analytics to get some insights, because ultimately we should be able to tell a story about the effectiveness of URLs. And, you know, a lot of times these URLs are I mean, they are attached to calls to action that are specific to marketing and sales. And if we can't tell the story regarding whether or not they're successful, effective, all of that, then we're really missing the boat. So this it's cool to just have you review the tool with us today and understand more about what you're doing. So I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Cool. I'm gonna. Is there anything else you want to cover in terms of what you think might be what's new, what's next, anything that could be useful for us?
What's funny is that, I mean, as soon as I got into, us building this tool, it's funny that, I mean, I feel like at least once a week, I'm discovering a new usage of UTMs. And it's kind of amusing that there's so many ways that you can use them once you get into the habit. So for example, something I learned earlier this week that I had never considered, my company website and lots of others have like OLARC or other chat software on your website. But a lot of them now have rules that you can create based on the URL string, that you can actually do regular expressions against the URL string to initiate conversations. So part of that is you can actually do a regular expression against the URL and see if there is a UTM encoded, the URL was UTM encoded. So you can actually set up rules based on the campaigns that you've set in your URLs to initiate a conversation, knowing which campaign the person came in from, as kind of like an extended or a better way of initiating a conversation. Yeah. So like you can use them in conjunction with your chat software. Another one that I talk about in my article was one a friend of mine taught me, where if he's sharing somebody else's URLs, he'll still UTM encode them and he'll drop his name as the campaign. So if the webmaster on the other side is actually looking at their data, they'll be like, who is this guy, Dave Kutcher, who shared my URL? Now I have to look him up. So like, you're leaving kind of digital trails for other webmasters to know that you were the one that shared their link. There's all these like fun uses of them that I feel like I'm continually learning new ones. Like I have to make a master list just because once you get into it, you're like, I have to use them for everything. And then it just becomes not just your metrics, but everyone else's metrics, because now you're messing with everyone else's analytics by dropping your name in them. But there's fun stuff.
No doubt. That's cool. That's good stuff, man. It makes me think about the personalization kind of stuff like that Post is doing. So Post, po.st, they're owned by Radium One. Mm-hmm. And they do allow you to do some cool things if you're communicating with them. So for example, we've got a built-in shortener. It's room214.co/ and then whatever. Mm-hmm. And that's fueled, that's set up through Post. And if you try to do that personalization through Bitly, from what I've heard, it's like $100,000 to get a personalized, this enterprise level Bitly account that essentially has your personalized shortener domain, if you will. And so I just think about the reason I mention it is because people are willing to pay that, evidently. And it makes me think, what else could you be doing on your side with different services of personalization URLs for shorteners? I don't know.
What's funny is that it's really not that hard to do those shorteners. I mean, from a coding perspective, it's really not that hard.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, but I think like Bitly is not expecting anyone I think they're expecting enterprise from like the New York Times level, not somebody who's sharing 10 URLs a day kind of thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I mean, that's how they can offer it to everybody else for the time being.
Right.
But I mean, that's kind of our goal is eventually we're going to add personalized URL shorteners into there as well, because it seems like a natural next step, or maybe partner with somebody that will do that it works kind of in tandem. But it's really just, I mean, from our standpoint right now, we want to educate more people about UTMs and getting them using them, because I feel like, so much of our industry needs better data. Mm-hmm. There's so many people, marketers or people that are marketing their websites without being marketers, that just don't have a handle on it. I do my business. We do a lot of analytics consulting, and I joke with people that, of the 100 people that have installed Google Analytics, maybe 10 of them open up their analytics once a week. And of the 10 that open up their analytics once a week, maybe one of them actually understands what they're looking at. So let's call that 1% of 100 people that has installed analytics actually knows what they're looking at.
Right.
There's a lot of room for improvement when it comes to websites and understanding the data of who's visiting their website and how they're using it.
Yeah.
There's so much that's not being done, and if this really gets people to, to get excited, to start pulling back, the curtain of what their data consists of, and start going, wait, Dave gave me this dashboard and it has goal conversion rate. Well, how do I set up a goal? What is a goal? Hopefully they'll get them like excited about, you mean I can do this? I can see this information, and that's kind of, it gets me excited to see somebody like light bulb turning on in their head. Just like, wow.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Yeah, very cool. Well, awesome. I'm going to go ahead and stop the record button. If anybody wants to ask any questions, please feel free to do so. Really thankful for everybody who joined today, especially you, Dave Kutcher from Confluent Forms. Really appreciate it. We will be back 11:30 a.m. Colorado time. That's Mountain Time every Thursday. So thanks for joining us on another episode of The Agency Way.